Welcome to Mayor Avula's first budget rollout, Thriving Neighborhoods. First, we will have Kathleen Kramer, Real Estate Development Senior Manager with Enterprise Community. We will then hear from Mayor Avula, Merrick Malone. Sorry, let me back up. Kathleen Kramer, we will have Mayor Avula, Councilmember Robertson, Merrick Malone. He's the Director of Housing and Community Development. I will send this out to you folks afterwards, so you do not have to jot it down. Javon Burton, Partnership for Housing Affordability and the Mayor's Advisory Team, Housing Advisory Team. Laura Lafayette, Richmond Association of Realtors and the Mayor's Housing Advisory Team. Ciera Frye, Director of Homeownership Services, Southside Community Development and Housing Corporation. Reverend Donté McCutcheon, founder, pastor of Love Cathedral Community Church and Heart for the City, and our CAO, Odie Donald. We will be able to take at least probably one. We'll start out with one question per outlet, see how the time looks. If you've got other questions and we're out of time, definitely happy to follow up with you all individually or take questions via email. So let's go ahead and get started. We are live streaming and let's get going. So Kathleen.
Good morning. Welcome everyone to the city's north side. My name is Kathleen Kramer and I'm here on behalf of Enterprise Community Development. We are a nonprofit affordable housing development organization that, in partnership with the city, have developed 6 different communities within the city limits that are all 100% affordable to working families or senior residents. In addition to the building we are standing in today, called Highland Terrace, as well as Highland Park Senior Apartments across the street here, we are also excited to soon announce the completion of Green Park Apartments behind me through this window here. ECD acquired this vacant site in 2021 from a local family. With the city's support, we were able to rezone this site to allow for the construction of 43 new multifamily units with ground floor commercial space and surface parking on site. 5 years later, we are nearly complete with construction, and our lease-up wait lists are open to working families earning between 40% and 80% of the area median income. None of this work would be successful or even possible without consistent support from the city, whether city council members, especially Councilwoman Ellen Robertson, city staff, especially Merrick Malone and his staff at the Department of Housing and Community Development, or the mayor's office. We are incredibly grateful to the city for prioritizing the housing affordability needs of its residents. On that note, I'm delighted to welcome the Mayor of Richmond, Mayor Danny Avula. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks so much for hosting us, and thank you all for being here this morning. As we get into the final stages of prepping our budget for this upcoming year, which we'll fully present to the public and to our city council on March 11th, we wanted to start helping people understand how the various priorities that our residents have voiced are going to be reflected in that budget. So today, we are here focused on pillar number 2, which is our Thriving Neighborhoods pillar. And we're going to highlight our budget priorities in both housing and public safety, hence the backdrop of this very menacing and friendly group of people behind me. I want you all to know that we are ultra focused on affordable housing. And it's why we are doing this event here today at Highlands Terrace, which is a phenomenal example of new affordable housing that's coming out of the ground that can only actually be made possible when you've got a clear commitment by your local government to prioritize housing affordability, when you have a mission-oriented development partner like Enterprise who really understands how to engage the community, how to piece together a bunch of different funding streams to make a project like this actually work, and how to make all that come together. And then the third thing you need is a city council that is really aligned around that mission and committed to allocating the resources to make it happen. And it's why I'm so pleased to be in partnership with Councilmember Robertson and the whole group of city council who have continued to make housing a priority in our city. And when all of those things align, you get buildings like this. You get communities and neighborhoods like this. And in Richmond, we need a whole lot more of this. You know, the city is clearly on the rise. We've seen our national reputation in recent years shoot up. We have seen the rest of the country start to discover what we have all known about our city, that we've got a really good thing going on here in Richmond. And it has led to a huge influx of residents, right? Since I moved here back in 2000, we have seen an increase of 40,000 people in this city. And it does not look like things are slowing down at all. And we love that, right? We want to share Richmond with the world. We are thrilled to welcome newcomers and to watch our city grow and to watch our city become even more and more diverse. But we also want those who have lived here their entire lives to be able to stay and be a part of that growth. And it's why the housing plan that I announced back in January is anchored in two very simple ideas. We want to build more homes for more people, and we want to find more ways for people to stay. And we get there by doing four things well. The first is creating predictable funding streams for affordable housing. Second, updating our zoning code to make it easier to build more homes for more people at all income levels. Third is that we've got to get aligned with Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority and make sure that we are accelerating our people-centric public housing redevelopment. And four, we're going to focus on anti-displacement efforts by making sure that the breadth of programs that we've established over the years in the city are actually being run and executed well. So I want to talk briefly about how this budget is going to do each of those four things. The first, establishing a predictable funding stream for the construction and preservation for affordable housing. Last week, we, along with City Council, worked for months prior to last week to get to a place where we could ensure that there was going to be money every year going into affordable housing. And the passage of that Affordable Housing Trust Fund legislation was a huge deal for our city. Again, Ellen Robertson, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for not only the decades of advocacy you have given for affordable housing in our community, but as I shared at council last week, the last few months were Councilmember Robertson, me, Odie, the whole team really getting into the details of what we want to do, how much do we want to set aside, where is it going to come from, how is it all going to work, right? And the work of actually, we were really aligned around the what of funding affordable housing, but it was the how, you know, like all of those details that really needed to be worked through. And so I'm so appreciative for Councilmember Robertson and all of council because we did it. We got to an ordinance that was co-patroned by me and 7 different council members that passed unanimously. And now we have a clear, stable, predictable, and implementable funding formula for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I'm very excited to share that in our FY27 budget, that formula is going to yield a commitment of $11.7 million to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. You've heard me say before that the HTF is an important tool, but we also need a lot of different tools to actually make affordability work in the city. And I think Richmond has really served as a model of creativity in many ways. We've been really successful at rolling out our performance grants, as an example. And so this year, about $1.8 billion will be going back in tax rebates to performance grants. And those performance grants have been leveraged with other funds to be a part of 16 different projects across the city that's going to yield a total of 1,969 units, of which 1,841 are going to be affordable units. And this program, the performance grants, have been one of the main programs we've used to build this complex that we're here in today, Highland Terrace. So you're going to hear more from Merrick, Malone in a little bit on how that money is going to be used, what we've got coming down the pike, some of the details about how those investments in both the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and performance grants really drive affordability. All right, the second main way is the zoning code refresh, right? Over the last year, we have literally been connecting with thousands of Richmond residents as part of the process to update our zoning code. And the goal here is to really be able to build more homes for more people. We know that cities that have focused the most on building more housing have had the most success in containing rising housing costs. Remember those 40,000 people I mentioned over the last 20-some years? Like, we have got to make it as easy as possible to build more homes so that the continued growth of people who want to come into Richmond can find a place to live and aren't displacing the people who live here. We also want to make sure that we have homes for people at all stages of life. Those who come in right out of college and want to be renters, those who want to move into single-family homes, those who want to live in multi-generational communities. We want to think about thriving, walkable neighborhoods, like communities like this that have stores and community centers and libraries and amenities like markets and restaurants. And the zoning code are the rules that allow those communities to come up out of the ground. And if we're really serious about being a city that is thriving, that is a thriving, racially and socioeconomically diverse community, then we've got to make it possible to be a thriving, racially and socioeconomically diverse neighborhood. And that is all baked into our zoning code. So as we go through this code refresh, our goal again is to make it more possible for homes of different types at different price points to exist in proximity to one another. So right now, our second draft of the zoning code is posted for public input. We're going to be wrapping that up on March 1st. So anybody who has not had a chance to look at that and provide your input, please do so. Go to rva.gov and get your input in. And our hope is to collate all of that information and input that we've received on the last couple of drafts, and then work with council to try to adopt a new zoning code sometime this summer. All right, the third big strategy here is resident-centered public housing redevelopment. I've been working in public housing communities since my med school days, and in that work, have really come to understand two things. One, that here in Richmond, we have needed to address the state of our public housing units for over 2 decades. And that has become increasingly difficult given the federal government shift in the way that they're thinking about funding housing and the way that they've pulled money away from bricks and mortar, government subsidized ownership of subsidized housing, and really shifting to a model where they are funding vouchers that can be used in the private market. The second is that public housing redevelopment does not go well when residents aren't the primary focus, right? We've had a few examples in Richmond over the years, the Blackwell Initiative, Dove Court, where so much, as we look back, so much of what happened in those redevelopment efforts was losing track of families, not knowing where families ended up, watching families fall through the cracks. And so we've learned and we've done better with the Creighton redevelopment, but we still have a lot more growth in the way that we center residents on the process of public housing redevelopment. So right now, we are working with the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority to map out the redevelopment of Gilpin Court and the surrounding Jackson Ward area. And we have made a foundational commitment to supporting resident needs and to maintaining a supply of deeply affordable housing. And at the same time, we know that we've got to build higher quality mixed income communities because we've seen that the model of hyper-segregated, concentrated poverty without ongoing investment has not worked for the residents of Richmond. And so we've got to do something different. And part of doing something different is a commitment of $1.6 million in this budget to finish the next phase of Creighton Court's redevelopment, and then a significant addition of dollars to our human services budget to actually build capacity to the people plan, right? The team that will do the engagement, do the holistic family case management, will do the transition planning for families as we go through Gilpin Court redevelopment and future public housing redevelopment efforts. So lots of work ahead there, but we are so hopeful for the future of Gilpin Court and our work in conjunction with RRHA. Now, the fourth is a focus on anti-displacement by strengthening how we deliver the programs that we already have going on. When I moved to Richmond, when I decided to stay in Richmond after medical school, we moved into the East End neighborhood of Churchill. And at the time, the neighborhood was almost predominantly lower income, almost predominantly African-American. And over the next few years, we saw some mix of that. And about the first decade in, there was this incredibly rich and diverse community that were living life together daily, sending kids to school together, becoming a part of nonprofits, of community advocacy, of faith life together. And then over the last decade, we've seen a really significant shift in the neighborhood. We have seen the market continue to fuel new investment, new faces, new voices, and that's been great for the community in some ways, right? We've seen a lot of redevelopment at the East End. It's been really challenging in other ways, right? It has driven costs up to the point that so many of our residents have been pushed out of the neighborhood. Predominantly low-income African-American neighbors have been displaced from the neighborhood. And I think that was a huge impetus for me to even run for this office, right? Watching the the shape and face of my neighborhood change over the last 10 years, watching the way that the beautiful, rich community we'd experienced was starting to unravel, and knowing that there are things that local government can do to preserve that kind of community, to preserve that kind of diversity. We know that thriving, inclusive communities don't happen by accident. We know that unintentional market-driven growth pulls us in the opposite direction, and it means that we have to do this intentionally. We have to use every tool available to prevent displacement. In the last few years, our city has actually done a lot of this really well. We've established important tools like our eviction diversion program, property tax relief for seniors with limited incomes, and a few other housing stability programs. But having a program is only the first step. Right? The real questions we've got to ask are they reaching the intended audience? Are people getting the information they need and able to get the supports they need to stay in their communities? Are they easy to navigate? And that's the work in front of us, because we have seen that has not been the case, right? We've known that a lot of our residents have struggled to know what programs are available, have struggled to actually apply effectively for them. And so that's the work that we've got to do to improve our delivery, to prove our effectiveness in using the tools that have been made available to us. So later you'll hear from Ciera, Frye, the Director of Homeownership Services at Southside Community Development and Housing Corporation. She manages our eviction diversion program. So this budget continues to prioritize our anti-displacement efforts and make sure that we can keep people in their homes. In this budget, we will see $700,000 for a Right to Counsel program, $1 million for our Family Crisis Fund, $1 million for our eviction diversion program, and $7.4 million in tax relief for older adults and persons with disabilities. So just a handful of the ways that we're fueling that fourth initiative to really improve the effectiveness of our anti-displacement programs. So we've got to do all of those things well, right? All four of those approaches are reflected in our budget and will continue to be priorities to us. And I hope that the people of Richmond will engage that process and in the coming years start to feel the impacts of those new investments and that new execution, and that the years to come will be marked by more diverse, more inclusive, more thriving communities. Now I'd like to bring up my colleague and friend, Councilmember Ellen Robertson, to share her thoughts on affordable housing.
What time is it? Is it morning, afternoon? Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I unfortunately didn't know that my name was on the agenda, so I haven't prepared a speech as well as the mayor and organized. But even when I've had plenty of advance notice to do so, I tend to not be able to stick to the script. So what I do best is just speak from the heart. Where we are in the city of Richmond as affordable housing is a place of continual commitment and dedication and growth. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for choosing this location to have this press conference. This is Highland Park. This is Ellen's homeland. I've lived in Highland Park for more years than I probably can count. And I was just sharing with someone this morning, when I moved to Highland Park the same year that I got married. And we bought a house that Senator Blawley's aunt, he called it an aunt, I call him an aunt, lived in. And she was really probably the oldest single white woman living in this neighborhood at that time. And the senator was very happy when he found out that I was interested in buying that house. I'd been all around the counties and looking for a home and didn't find anything that I liked. So the realtor actually bought me here at night. I had no idea what Highland Park looked like, right? And but I fell in love with Miss Blawley, and I fell in love with the home. And 3 months after moving in, going to school and so forth, I got on my bicycle. Some of you all have heard this story, because I was angry with my husband, didn't like the dog, and I was sick of being in VCU's classes every day and working full time. I was tired. And so I got on my bicycle and went for a ride. In this place, Highland Park, was a disaster. For 20, 30 homes that was in any one block, 20 of them were in the worst shape that you could imagine. It was lots of blight, extreme blight. It was so frightening that I was afraid because I'm on a bicycle and I'm feeling exposed, right? I don't feel comfortable. And so I get to the end of the block, end of the neighborhood. And this young lady sitting, older lady for me, sitting on the porch. And so I stop and I ask her, what happened here? How did we get to such a place of blight? And she told me the story of how this neighborhood flipped, as you said, with Churchill, from a 100% predominantly white working class community to a 95% in one census year, 10 years, from white to black. And most of the transition was not ownership transition. It was owners not wanting to deal with between 60 and 70, the transition that took place, and they rent their properties to a large African-American residents. But they failed to keep the property up. They weren't happy with losing their property through the integration that is taking place, right? And so they didn't keep up their properties. And so the people that were living in those communities were living in blighted properties. When we talk about code, rental inspection program, and those kinds of things, same situation. These cycles they are cycles. They continue to revolve. And so this lady said to me, you know, Ellen, you're here because you're in urban studies and planning, working on a degree at VCU, and the Lord has sent you here to fix this community. I got on my bicycle immediately and here to come. Sorry, lady, I don't know the Lord like that. I get home, I tell my realtor who lives across the street from me, put a sign in my yard, I'm selling this house. I'm not living in this community. Young man raising 3 children, and he says to me, Ellen, who deserves to live in this community if you don't? I still remember those cuts, okay? And it cut. And I said back to him, I'll stay as long as you're willing to help me build this community. But if you don't, put the sign in my yard because I'm moving. I can make a choice. I don't have to stay here. And I stayed, and I'm still here. We started a nonprofit. We did thousands of homes. The development that you see taking place here, the school that was renovated, Better Housing Coalition is doing a development right down the street that is homeownership and rental, mixed income, quality development. What used to be Dove Court has been developed, and we've got some work to still do there. You know, Southside Community Development Corporation built those beautiful homes that were at Manchester. So where we are, and I'm glad that the mayor mentioned the gentrification and the property values, and still what we build as affordable housing is not affordable to still a lot of people in the city of Richmond. So I'm constantly being told we're not doing development that is affordable. It's not affordable to some people that we aren't willing to pay more than minimum wages. People that clean our city hall that are on contract right now making less than $30,000 a year with no benefit, no package, and so forth. So there's a population that we still have to reach. Many of them are our public housing community residents, and but we're making progress. And I'm pleased with the dedication that I hear, Mayor Avula, that you're making in all of the different approaches that are being used to develop quality housing opportunities for residents of public housing community as well as those at 80% and those that are above. I believe in mixed income communities. I think they are the fabric that makes a difference in the community. And at the present time, I'm recruiting anyone who's interested to be a partner in helping me to figure out how we can transform Highland Park to be the first model, beloved, inclusive neighborhood in the city of Richmond. And we've already got a good stock of affordable housing as the base that we need to make that happen. So the mayor shared a lot of incentives and challenges. And my incentive and challenge is that I'm looking for some good-hearted people who are willing to be a part of helping me to work with our partners and our universities to create this beloved, inclusive community right here in Highland Park. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Merrick Malone, the Director of Housing and Community Development, and I drew the short straw to have to speak behind the mayor and Councilwoman Robertson. But I think that for me, and your standing and what happens when you do strategic investment of funding, because to create affordability, the mayor mentioned it, you have to be intentional. And in being intentional, that is what creates the affordability. Because, you know, this could have been a market rate building. It's built with market rate amenities. But what has allowed us to meet the different ranges, income ranges, are the type of funding sources that we use in these projects. For example, we could be using federal money, which is from the ARPA, or our home money, which is our federal entitlement money from HUD. We can pair that with our a performance grant. Our affordable housing performance grant, we take the lead on. The architect of that grant is behind us, and Ms. Sharon Ebert. She's done it, and now the state is making it through the General Assembly. It's going to go through the entire state. But these kind of developments cannot happen without the strategic investment of our resources or the strategic use of our tools that we have. And creative tools are what makes it this affordable. So for me, if you look, you're standing in a building that has those kind of incentives and those kind of tools in partnership with really great partners like Enterprise. You don't do this by yourself. We use our funding to leverage funding from other sources to be able to do these kinds of buildings, and also provide that range of access for the different levels, income levels. So while we stand here, it wasn't too long ago where we were doing a ribbon cutting in this building and a groundbreaking on that building. And so this is what really happens. It's one thing to talk about it, but this is the reality of when you use those tools correctly and invest those kind of sources. So thank you. It's a good day.
Good afternoon. My name is Javon Burton. I'm the Executive Director with the Partnership for Housing Affordability. Today and here in Richmond, more than half of all renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And the city has experienced significant growth in the last decade, but housing has not kept up pace with demand. Simply put, when there's not enough homes, prices go up. And that's the dynamic that we're facing here today in Richmond, across the region, and in many parts of the country. Now, local governments have a major role to play in that, and one powerful tool that they have is zoning. But for too long, for many decades, zoning has been a tool used to help limit and restrict what and where housing can get built. So different types of housing, such as townhomes or smaller units or small multifamily housing, has been really difficult. Options that are more attainable for working families and younger professionals or seniors looking to age in place. When supply is constrained, competition increases for the existing units that are in the market, and that drives up rents and home prices. And that's why Mayor Avula's plan for more homes and more people really asks the question, if we value affordability, then we need to allow for more homes to get built in all parts of the city. But without increasing supply, we can't meaningfully reduce cost pressures that exist in the market, and the scale of the need that we'll see in our city, not just presently, but here in the next 10 years. So if we want a Richmond where teachers, where public service employees, where healthcare professionals, where those who make this place a great city to work and live, if we want them to thrive, we have to build more homes. The way we zone today determines who gets to live here tomorrow. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Lafayette. I serve as the CEO of the Richmond Association of Realtors and the Central Virginia Regional MLS, which means I work for 6,000 people who are excited about the fact that more and more people discover Richmond and want to be a part of our community. We have a mantra, which is people won't buy a house until they first bought into a community's collective quality of life. And really foundational to our quality of life, our ability to create communities of opportunity, communities where every child born today in Richmond has an opportunity to get to 18 healthy, whole, and with live options for their future. Housing, affordable, sustainable housing, and a sense of security is foundational to those communities of opportunity. And I've been at this work for a long time. Ellen Robertson, Councilwoman Robertson, I can remember when we first started talking about an affordable housing trust fund, and that was over 2 decades ago. Takes a while in this town. But we are here, and I cannot overstate how important it is to have a dedicated source of revenue, a truly dedicated source of revenue that is going to be consistently provided for housing year in and year out. Whether you're a private sector developer or a nonprofit developer, you need consistency. And in so many areas across our state, local governments are paying lip service to the need for housing, but they're not doing a whole lot about it. And so it's a good day, a really good day, as Merrick said, to be in the city where they are not only talking about the need for housing, they are investing and they are promoting policies that turn the concern of housing into the reality of providing more homes and enabling more people to stay securely housed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ciera Frye, and I am the director of our Homeownership Center at Southside Community Development. First, on behalf of our CEO, Ms. Diana Bowser, I would like to sincerely thank the mayor and the city of Richmond for the continued support of our Homeownership Center and our mission to serve the residents of the city of Richmond through our eviction diversion program and our homeownership program. Because of the city's support, we are able to prevent evictions, reduce homelessness, and minimize housing instability through our eviction diversion program, which was established in 2019. The focus of this program is to divert evictions, stabilize housing by providing financial assistance to individuals and families who are at risk of facing eviction. Through our counseling efforts, we educate tenants on the eviction process. We coach them on ways to improve or stabilize their income. We collaborate with local landlords to help keep families safely housed. In addition, through the city's support, we have received funding for down payment assistance to expand homeownership opportunities for first-time home buyers that are purchasing their very first home in the city of Richmond. Southside Community Development and Housing Corporation is proud to be a pillar in the community. We will continue to serve as a trusted resource where residents can receive housing counseling, homebuyer education, financial coaching to strengthen their overall financial well-being and be successful homeowners. These programs are invaluable to the individuals and families we serve. They truly make a difference to the lives of those who simply want the opportunity to have stable housing and to live and work in the city that they love. Thank you again.
Hello, my name is Donté McCutcheon. Thank you, Mayor Avula, and thank you to everyone who is here today. When we talk about thriving neighborhoods, we're not just talking about housing, buildings, and places, although that is why we're here today. It's a huge part of it. We're talking about people. We're talking about families, children, elders, chosen family, the network that help a community feel safe, connected, and whole. People-centered public housing redevelopment is essential to this vision. For decades, we have seen what happens when public housing communities are isolated, underinvested, and disconnected from opportunity. Concentrated poverty and disinvestment do not create safety. It creates trauma. And trauma, unleft and unaddressed, can ripple through generations. If we're serious about gun violence prevention, we must also be serious about healing. Safe housing is violence prevention, Richmond. Stable housing is trauma prevention. That's why redevelopment must go beyond bricks and mortar. It has to include a people plan, whole family case management, mental health access, workforce pathways, youth programming, and strong partnership with community-based healing networks. When families are supported through transition, not displaced or ignored, neighborhoods become stronger and safer. Mixed income communities done right can reduce isolation, increase opportunity, and restore dignity. But the key phrase there is done right. Done right. Done right. Residents must lead. Their voices must shape redevelopment. Their stability must be protected. We must do this work in collaboration, clarity, connection, prayer, and with a healing mindset. Thriving neighborhoods mean more than affordability. They mean belonging, safety, and rooted community. And they mean that as Richmond grows, the families who built these neighborhoods can stay. Not only stay, but thrive as well. That's how housing policy becomes public safety policy. And that's how redevelopment becomes restoration. And that's how we build a city that truly works for everyone, because everybody is somebody.
How y'all doing this afternoon? Sheriff, you come up with me. Come on, Mr. Malone. And Miss Ebert, you come on up here too. A lot of these folks don't always get the props or attention that they should when we are making our contributions, y'all come on up. So listen, I'm thankful to join you today and really kind of give some context to how the mayor's pillars around thriving neighborhoods connects to our proposed budget. Thriving neighborhoods, meeting the housing needs of a growing city so the Richmonders at every income level can afford good housing in safe neighborhoods with strong amenities. While that vision of Richmond provided by our mayor is a beautiful and aspirational thing, today, I'm probably more inspired that as we stand together to preview these investments, we're putting our money where our mouth is. The proposed budget, to me, reflects a significant investment in public safety at approximately $48 million, including new operating funding, the continuation of prior year enhancements, and additional capital improvement resources to support everything from facilities, equipment, and infrastructure. These investments represent both new and sustained investments across multiple funding sources. Budget also includes approximately $32 million plus in housing support, reflecting the city's continued commitment to expanding affordable housing opportunities and supporting residents across the housing continuum. This investment, or I'll say these investments, represent both new and previously planned capital improvement adjustments, as well as continuing activities in the upcoming fiscal year. We also don't want to forget about those federal housing resources, local tax relief measures, and investments leveraged through partnerships with external agencies and community partners, many of which you heard from today. I think that's a very important piece for us to think about when we humanize the budget. The way we do some things is how we do everything, and that's together. The mayor and council have laid the foundation through the recently passed affordable housing legislation, where there's a clear path forward that allows us to deliver the housing stock necessary to support Richmond now and through the foreseeable future. The results of the mayor's investments matter to Richmonders. I've said it once, I'll say it again, but Danny delivers. And if you ain't heard that, we should coin it today. When we make these prudent and timely investments, Richmonders benefit, whether it's through homicides at a historic low, major crimes down from 2025, or Richmond's rating is one of the fastest growing metro areas in the nation. It's one thing to be safe, and that's actually the most important thing. But if people don't feel safe, the numbers don't mean much. That's why we're building thriving neighborhoods that you can't do just by the investment in housing. We also have to couple it with those efforts around public safety. As I close, I want to also highlight the investments that are necessary that we often forget. It's that whole of government approach that has been so refreshing that the mayor has really put forward. It includes those public safety supports that ensure we have thriving neighborhoods. One of those that we don't often talk about is the judiciary. Big part of what we're doing when it comes to public safety. And for more than 26 years, the court system has reminded us a few times those investments haven't always been there. And so in this proposed budget, under the vision of our mayor, we've accelerated funding for the John Marshall Courthouse so that FY27 includes more than $15 million available on day one to ensure renovations and improvements in safety. We also have added, amongst the funding that will go to the sheriff's office, an additional $317,000 specifically to ensure safety enhancement and additional staffing at the courthouse. There's funding for our partners at Frye to replace self-contained breathing apparatus units. There's also continued investments in fire trucks and in fleet replacement to include, but not limited to, our partners at RPD, our partners at Richmond Fire, as well as the Ambulance Authority. I will also highlight gun violence prevention. Again, that whole of government approach is what we're focused on. And so this proposed budget, while today we're focused on Pillar 2 and thriving neighborhoods, we also are investing in all of the parts of the continuum that not only make sure that Richmonders are safe, but they feel that way and are able to acknowledge it moving forward. I appreciate your time.